Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my new video. Today I'm going to be talking about Japan. Boy oh boy, do I have a lot to say about Japan. Okay guys, before I start, please continue to subscribe and like and comment whatever you can to help promote this channel. And if you really like the video, then please consider joining my Patreon or buying me a coffee. So let's get on with the show, guys. Japan has recently said they will start a war with China if China ever tried to reunify itself with Taiwan. And it's caused a lot of issues, to be honest. And China has responded to that remark by Japan. And China has said, by offering to defend Taiwan from China alongside the US, Japan is digging its own grave. Which I have to say I agree with. So what can I say about Japan? The Japanese to me are very weird. All my Western friends think the Japanese are very weird. They like weird things. All the grown men seem to like young girls in school uniforms. People seem to celebrate Christmas by eating KFC? Seriously? I mean, come on guys. But yeah, my friend seems to call them the land of the pedos because of the Japan's obsession with girls with school uniforms and being raped and killed, and you know, all of these crazy hentai cartoons and things like that. So yeah, so they are a bit weird, to be honest. So what's my take on all of this? So my take on all of this, Japan's statements and stuff is, are you bloody stupid? Seriously, what the F? How dumb are you? Seriously, how dumb are you? I've never ever heard anything more stupid and so ridiculous in my whole life. Do you have a death wish? Do all Japanese have an absolute death wish? Seriously? Is that what you want to do? You want to just disappear off the face of the earth? So dumb. Dumbest statement I've ever heard in my whole life. So I'm going to show you why I agree with that statement. So let's start here, guys. So this is the military expenditure of the world. And you can see United States at the start, China at the second. And you got Japan here, 9th place, with just under 50 billion spending on their military. But a lot of people don't know this, that American troops are based in Japan at the moment, and Japan pays for most of it. So you can see here, Japan pays for about 75% of the costs, and United States pay about 15, the rest, which is about 25%. So basically Japan pays for 3/4 and America pays for about 1/4. And if I go down here, I will show you what I mean. So here, the United States has about 5.5 billion budgeted for its military presence in Japan in 2016. So this is in 2016, and don't forget the military costs since then have risen. So if you work it out, guys, if you work out maybe 6 billion the United States is probably spending now, maybe more, but if you times that by 3, that's how much the Japanese military is paying for United States for being there. So if United States pays 5 billion, just for argument's sake, Japan would be paying 15 billion. So, you know, because Japan pays for 75% and United States pays for 1/4. So it pays about 15 billion, maybe even 20 billion, because this was about 2016. So I would probably estimate about 20 billion that Japan pays for the military there, and that's pretty good number, because a lot of other articles and research I've done, it does say around 20 billion with everything coming to it. So 20 billion, or maybe say take 20 billion out of the 50 billion, you're left with 30 billion, right? Then you've got to look at the capita basis as well. So you can see here, China GDP would be 2.7 times Japan's GDP in terms of capita. So China GDP per capita is $10,000 and Japan GDP per capita would be $41,000. So what this means is basically the cost of wages, the cost of goods, everything will be cheaper in China, which means China could have more military personnel, which they can pay low salaries, while Japan would have to pay very, very high salaries for their personnel. Same with development of the military. So the cost of developing, say, a frigate or an aircraft carrier would be much less than what it would cost in Japan. Same with the United States, you know. At the moment, because GDP per capita is very low in China, basically the cost of military goods is much, much cheaper. So China will be able to create much more in terms of military than Japan could. And if you look at the budget difference, so say we said 30 billion compared to 252 billion that the China is spending, you got to take into account cost per capita. So in fact, United States has got the highest cost per capita in the world, and don't forget, a lot of United States costs are going to overseas military bases and overseas troops. So that's going to come down significantly. Plus the cost per capita is much higher than China. So if you actually think about it, it's actually pretty much the same. And you might look at these figures and say United States is much larger, but if you work it out in terms of cost per capita and what China's been doing, for example, China's been creating much more vessels, they put much more money in research, and they're pretty much becoming on a par with United States. But China doesn't have many costs in terms of overseas military. They don't have much cost in terms of maintenance. United States spends a quarter of this amount on maintenance, and they maintain their 10 aircraft carriers and the F-35 fighter jets and so they've got a lot of maintenance costs. United States have, and 30 billion Japan has got for military spending. Do you know where they get the most of the military from? It's basically from the United States, and those F-35s don't come cheap. So they're buying F-35s, they're buying anti-aircraft missiles and things like that. But if you think about it, Japan really is this budget is not really real. You know, they're spending 20 billion for hosting United States Army in Okinawa, and the rest of the money pretty much goes on expensive military gear from the United States. And if you think about it, in terms of value for money, it's not very much value for money. So let's go to the next article and I'll show you some comparisons. So you can see here the military cost from China versus Japan. You can see the military budget 250 versus 50, which we just discussed. And you can also see the active personnel. There's over 2 million active personnel, while Japan has got about 250k. You look at the amount of tanks, armored vehicles, China has got much more than Japan has. And also the air forces, you can see it dwarfs Japan in terms of air forces. And the most important thing, it dwarfs Japan in terms of naval. So in terms of the Chinese Navy is 780, but they're bringing out submarines, they're bringing out naval vessels, they're bringing out aircraft carriers at a really fast pace. Within the next 5-10 years, that would probably be even 10 times greater than what Japan has at the moment. And you can see the nuclear weapons. China is a nuclear power and Japan is not, which is one of the most important things. Then you also have to think about Japan's military. It's basically a self-defense force, which means they don't have much offensive weapons. They don't have long-range ballistic missiles. Their military is basically for defense purposes only. That's why after the Second World War, the United States put that in the Japanese constitution, not to be an offensive military, just have defensive weapons. Yeah, they've got F-35s and stuff, but they don't have all these long-range weapons. They don't have nuclear weapons. They pretty much would be destroyed very easily if it came to a war between China and Japan. Another thing I wanted to talk about is Japan is recently turning its helicopter carriers into aircraft carriers. So these are its helicopter carriers. You can see what they look like. But China is also building these helicopter carriers, and you can see the difference. There's not much difference. It's pretty much the same thing. And Japan is turning these into aircraft carriers, but they're not true aircraft carriers. True aircraft carriers is what China's been building. The one that's going to come out soon, the 003, that's going to be a true aircraft carrier. And there's not much you can do with these ships, really. If you turn them into aircraft carriers, there's not much flexibility. You can't really hold many aircrafts in there, etc. It's primarily built for helicopters, and that's what this is the picture of the 075, which China has recently released. But you also have to think about China's military, because China's military is self-sufficient. All its stealth aircraft, all its missiles, nuclear weapons, the naval vessels, everything that China is doing is pretty much self-sufficient. So they can churn out these weapons, they can churn out these military gear at a very, very fast rate. They don't need to buy from another country. They don't need to buy from the States. They don't have to buy any equipment from the States. They can maintain their own equipment. So they can churn a lot of these aircraft out in an event of war, much more than what Japan can. For example, if Japan has a war with China, and say for instance all its F-35s are shot out the sky, what's Japan going to do next? They're not going to buy another load of F-35s from America, because that's going to take time, that's going to take effort. You can't just ask for F-35s and to be delivered straight away. In the middle of a war, you won't be able to do that. And if China won't be, if China's aircraft is shot out of the skies, they can easily build some more. In an event of war, they can have all their military factories active and building all these weapons and aircraft, because that's what America did in the Second World War and the First World War, and war with Japan as well. So you can see in a time of war, Japan has really got no chance whatsoever. So this is why Japan is digging its own grave by poking the dragon, as you say. But there are other reasons why poking the dragon, especially Japan, is not a very good idea. And this is why. The Nanking Massacre. So a lot of you may not have known about the Japanese history, but I'm sure some of you Chinese may do. But a lot of the Westerners don't really know about what Japan did to China and all the massacres that Japan did. So I used to read a lot of Chinese, Japanese history, and I'm absolutely shocked what Japan did to China, to be honest. Japan's atrocities in China is probably the worst this world has ever seen. Literally the worst. I've not heard or anything worse than what Japan did to China. So I'm going to give you some examples and go through this article. So one of the worst things that Japan has done to China is called the Nanking Massacre. So I will quickly explain what it is. After losing the Battle of Shanghai in 1937, the Chinese Revolution Army, led by Chiang Kai-shek, was aware of the impossibility of holding the city of Nanking. Despite heavy casualties which had been inflicted by the Japanese, by December 9th, the Japanese were in a position to assault the city, and by December 13th, the Chinese forces defending it had largely withdrawn. So what the Japanese did, they attacked the city. There was hardly any armies there. There were hardly any Chinese forces there. So literally massacred the whole city, killed men, women, children, and they raped all the women, they raped children, looting, arson, you name it, they've done it. Literally about 300,000 people had died in that massacre. Literally, it's just cowardly, really. There's no forces defending the city. Then why do you have to kill all these innocent people, women, children? It's absolutely ridiculous. other things that Japanese had done, there's something called the Unit 731 Manchukuo, and where basically they experimented on Chinese. They used them to test nerve agent, chemical agents, all these human experiments they were using the Chinese for. And again, hundreds and thousands have died because of these experiments the Japanese were doing on the Chinese. It's absolutely atrocious. And then you have something called the comfort women, where women were basically forced to be prostitutes for Japanese soldiers. And most of these women, or I would say nearly all the women, were forced against their will to be prostitutes for the Japanese soldiers. And 75% of them would die because of suicide, and the others would basically die because of disease, or sexual diseases that they were getting. And these were not only women, but they were children as well, young girls, and it was absolutely atrocious, guys, absolutely atrocious. And there's something called retaliation of the Doolittle raid. So this was during the Pearl Harbor times, when Americans were basically doing bombing runs on the Japanese. And basically this is called the Doolittle raid because there was a couple of airplanes from America which couldn't go back to base, so they landed in Chinese territory. And so these people that were in the villages who were helping the American soldiers, basically feeding them, clothing them, and housing them and stuff, the Japanese knew about it, and basically they massacred the whole village and the surrounding villages that helped these American soldiers. And again, these people had no weapons, no way to defend themselves. They were just massacred. Absolutely horrendous, guys, absolutely horrendous. There was also a lot of prisoners of war, Chinese prisoners of war, Japanese kept. And again, there was no UN, there was no UN, or there was no body to protect these prisoners. So they just being killed and tortured, and not many of them have made it back alive. I mean, there's talk about half a million soldiers that were kept, and only a few came out. So there was thousands, hundreds and thousands of Chinese soldiers and prisoners of war. They just got killed and tortured. It just goes on and on, guys. There was a Sun Qing massacre, but you get the point. You get the point of all these chemical weapons they use testing on the Chinese, and you get the point why the Japanese are very much hated in the region, and also hated in China as well. So China has been pretty good in terms of building up relationships with the Chinese and trading with them, and forgetting about the past and stuff. So China has been pretty good and forgiving, but a lot of the olden Chinese who actually remember part of this history are not going to be very forgiving. So Japan talking about coming to the aid of Taiwan and things like that, it's just stirring up old feelings, guys. Seriously, Japan needs to shut the F up when it comes to Taiwan, red lines of China. Because as soon as Japan opens its mouth, all of these people that remember these massacres and things like that, all of those memories, it's just going to come flooding back. And China is not a country you want to mess with. And they've got a lot of old history. They would love to destroy Japan and just completely wipe it from the face of the earth. They would absolutely love to. So if you keep poking the dragon, one of these days the dragon's going to open its mouth and just burn you to hell. That's what Japan's doing. Japan is the reason why Taiwan is where it is at the moment. If it wasn't for Japan, Taiwan would still be part of the mainland. It is where it is at the moment because Japan invaded Taiwan and the history of it. So really, seriously, do you see Germany ever talking about Israel and Palestine? Because they know the history about the Jews. So they try and shut the F up when it comes to talking about Jews and Israel. They never mention that. And Japan, what the hell? What the F are you doing? Seriously, are you seriously that dumb? What? Who the hell is running Japan? A bunch of clowns. Are you seriously that stupid? I was absolutely shocked when I read what I read. Absolutely shocked. And this is nothing against the Japanese people. Most of the Japanese people love me, are very friendly, and I'm sure 90% of them are anti-war, and they don't want any war with the world. They don't want to be blown out the face of the world, face of the earth. So what the hell are these stupid politicians doing? Trust me, China would love to destroy Japan, love to. In fact, China has been very good in not destroying Japan. You're talking about a nuclear power, and Japan is not a nuclear power. Japan doesn't even have long-range ballistic missiles that can reach China, but China has missiles that can reach Japan. Even if Japan has missiles that can reach China, they're only a small number compared to the amount China has. Look at the amount of people China has, 1.4 billion. How many missiles do you think they can create a year? And after Japan has said this, what do you think the Chinese are going to do? They're going to be like, right guys, start building some more missiles, start building some more nukes. Let's shut these people up. And I'm sure China's going to start accelerating their missile programs, their military programs. So you got the bloody US on their case. Now you got bloody Japan. Then you got bloody Australia talking about war. So what do you think this is going to make China do? They're going to start, increasing their military presence. They're going to increase their missile program. They're going to increase their military programs. Start playing more war games. And think about this, Japan, just think about this. When you try and defend Taiwan, look where you are in the map. Are you that stupid? Look where you are. You're not near America. What do you think America's going to do when China throws half a billion missiles at Japan, completely destroys the whole country? What do you think America's going to do? America's far away, mate. They're not going to come to your aid. Like they're not going to come to Taiwan's aid. Seriously, are you that dumb? Look where Japan is compared to China. China would throw missiles at you all day long. Your American anti-missiles is not going to help you. They're crap. They're untested. They're just overpriced. Try and stop some hypersonic missiles from China and see if all of that was a good value for money. And you fighting over the stupid Senkaku Islands or whatever you call them. The Chinese call them something else, guys. I can't remember the name. Sorry about that. But these stupid islands, just let them go. Just give it back to China. You're the one that bloody invaded them and took them away from China. So just give it back. Why fight over these stupid little islands? And they're not even livable. If I was running Japan, I would give those islands back, apologize for the past atrocities, kick the bloody US troops out of Okinawa, and start working with the Chinese and just asking for forgiveness. The reason Japan is not getting along with South Korea is because of the past atrocities, and South Korea wanted payment from Japan for all these comfort women and things like that. Japan just refused. That's why they don't get along. But if Japan had to pay for all the atrocities that it caused China, it would have to pay trillions and trillions. Seriously, you can't put a price tag on all the atrocities that Japan has caused to China. Literally quadrillions what Japan would have to pay to China. Anyway guys, I want to end this video here. So I want to request you guys carry on doing what you're doing. Subscribe, like, share, press the bell icon, whatever you can to promote this channel even more and help with the algorithm. It will be very much helpful. And lately a lot of my videos are getting demonetized by YouTube because apparently I'm too sensitive and I don't talk nice about other countries, so a lot of my videos get demonetized because of it, so I don't get paid for this. So if you can support the channel, there's the Patreon there, and there's also, you can buy me a coffee. It does help a lot because, you know, I'm pretty much doing this for free out of my own pocket, so your help and your support just makes me want to work even harder. So do what you can to help support the channel, guys, and I really appreciate it. So I'll end it now, and I'll speak to you guys soon on the next video.